everyone. It's indeed a pleasure to be here this morning, though it's quite far off from the place of work where I never knew that such a beautiful institution is there at such a distance. Infrastructurally, it looks very impressive. I'm sure content-wise and student-wise also you will be having much better than the infrastructure. And I am indeed, I don't know, I mean this universal concept, universal group of institution, I was, when I saw the pamphlet and I saw the one letter that was sent that you are training for the induction into the civil services is something I found unique. You know, I mean, I haven't come across so far the concept of training the students for taking the exam while they are graduating, while they are undergoing the graduation course. It's indeed very nice that you have thought of this concept. Supendra Shetty, and of course every staff and all, I must congratulate you for and compliment you for thinking of such an endeavor. And I am told that many students are getting into here on and from this coaching institution that I have, of course, the write-up, the letter that was sent, I was asked to speak on the role of civil services in the socio-economic transformation, political transformation, particularly with relation to gender sensitization and sensitivity. And it's a pleasure that today you have inaugurated this, you have started this anti-sexual harassment cell. Of course, that should have been in place. I don't know when this institution came into being, this particular institution, because this act is there, I think, from 2013 onwards, this act came into being, and before that also we have been talking about it. Before the act came into being also, we have been talking about it. And I don't know whether you know the genesis of this, the act that is based on the Bhavri Devi case. Have you heard about the Bhavri Devi case? So Bhavri Devi case which happened in 1992. That time she is from Rajasthan, and she is basically, the concept that the matter when it went to the Supreme Court, the matter that was taken up was that she was basically, faced the sexual harassment, including rape and all other atrocity, because while being in work, she was a sathi, that's in women development program, that's like you have got the Anganwadi workers and all that. Similarly, health workers we have got in Karnataka. Similarly, in Rajasthan, she was a sathi. They call sathi means you understand a friend. So she used to basically, take up matters pertaining to, where women are facing all kinds of issues, problems in the society, for example, early child marriage or maybe other kinds of harassment. So the one for which she got killed, in fact, by the upper caste people was because she opposed a particular child marriage when it was happening, and then ultimately she faced all this because of that. So it's good that the institution has started this anti-sexual harassment cell. Of course, I don't know how many women employees you have got in this institution, but nevertheless, whatsoever it is there, it should be in place, and better late than never. I mean, it has started. My compliments to the institution for having started this cell today. You have read about or heard about my whatever curriculum vitae and where all I have worked. Of course, I superannuated as the Director General of Police of the state in 2017. I was the head of the police force of Karnataka, where from I superannuated. And this is a post-superannuation work which has been given to me by the government. We have got the State Human Rights Commission. The Protection of Human Rights Act is there, under which we have the National Human Rights Commission, and all the states have got the State Human Rights Commission, and the Karnataka State Human Rights, so also as other states also have got basically 3 members in each State Human Rights Commission. 2 are from judiciary and 1 from non-judicial, where I am there, and we all have got the judicial work pertaining to human rights. When we talk about, I am very happy that you are all aspiring to be civil servants. When we talk about role of civil servants, here the students are basically from which year of the graduation?
First year.
First year. Good.
And some few are second year.
Catch them early, I'm happy, to talk to first year students. When you talk about the role of civil servants, India, if you have heard about, we have got when you talk about the 4 pillars, in fact 3 pillars as the constitution, and 4th pillar I am leaving aside, the press, it's called the 4th pillar, but the 3 pillars of democracy, and it basically, these are basically the legislature, the executive and the judiciary. You all are aware of that, that's all. But let me first talk to you about the, I'm leaving aside everything pre-independence now. And you must, of course, once go through all the things, which have happened pre-independent India. If you say, have you been united, or has the concept of India been there pre-independence, or are the Britishers the ones who have united the country? These are certain things which are all debatable, but then, yes, we had in the past a huge empire under the Mauryas, we had a huge empire under the Guptas, we had a huge empire under the Mughals, so we had even in the pre-independence also era, but post-independence we had India, which was connected, but then we had, when the Britishers left us, we had several princely states, and of course the states which were administered by the British government. So it was Sardar Patel and the government which got everything united. We all know about that. But post-independence, let us first talk about when the constitution was being written. How India was constituted and what was thought about the country, as is what you should first know through the preamble. The preamble of the Constitution of India says what? We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign. In fact, it was, as you all know, it was a sovereign democratic republic when the 26th November 1949, when the Constitution came into being. But the 42nd Amendment brought in 2 more things, socialist and secular. So now it is sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens, and these are important, to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic and political liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship, equality of status and of opportunity. These 3 things, justice, social, economic and political justice we are talking about. Now think of when the country was being thought of, when the governance of the country was being thought of, or administration of the country was being thought of by the Constituent Assembly. They said that first of all, what they said is sovereign democratic. That means who? We, the people of India. It's we, the people, are the sovereign. It's not the king or X or Y or Z. It is the people of the country who are the sovereign, you know. And we have now resolved for what? We have resolved for justice. Justice what? Justice, social, economic and political justice. And we have resolved for liberty. Now it's a very big thing. Liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship. Now somebody today read out the lines of Where the Mind is Without Fear of Rabindranath Tagore, Mr. Jha. What's your first name? I forget. Dibyajit. He read out about Where the Mind is Without Fear. Now this is what it is. Liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship. And third is equality of status and of opportunity. Now these are the equality of status and of opportunity. Mind it, you know, of opportunity. Everybody will get the same opportunity. And to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation in our Constituent Assembly, the 26th day of November 1949, to hereby adopt, enact and give to ourselves this Constitution. This is how we thought of this country when we the Constituent Assembly met, and this is the ethos on which the country is based. It's so important, you know, the whole Constitution. If you say the Constitution, it is through this preamble. The whole governance is through preamble. You know, if you understand the ethos of the preamble, you would understand what kind of governance it has to be. I mentioned the three pillars of the democracy. Now the democratic sovereign democratic republic. Now these are, of course, the subsequent chapters would give you, you know, all these whether it is legislature, whether it is executive, whether it is judiciary, you know, all these they mention, and those details I am not going into. But all of them are basically there. These pillars are there in support of this particular ethos of the country, which is mentioned in the preamble. So remember this, that we are here for justice, political, economic, social. We are here for liberty of thought, belief, expression, faith, worship, and we are here for equality of opportunity, equality of status. We are here, all of us, in the country for that purpose. Now, once we have thought of such kind of ethos, I don't think anywhere in the world you can think of a country like India where, you know, that those great ideals are there as in the constitution of the country. We have constituted ourselves with such great ideals. Nowhere else you can think of such a wonderful, you know, thoughts which have gone into the constitution of the republic. Now, the second aspect is the role of the civil servants. Now, I have mentioned one of the pillars is the executive. Now, the executive basically is, we have adopted a kind of governance which is, you know, we are, though some say that we are quasi-judicial, quasi-federal. Actually, we are not completely federal like United States, but we are federal. You know, we have federal in the sense we are, we have got states, we have got the union. But again, there are certain laws which are applicable of the union to the entire country, and there are certain laws on which the union and the state both can, you know, legislate. That those things you must have known about in the lists which are given in the schedule, list 1, 2, 3 or list A, B, C, whatever you call it. Those lists are there. Now, the union, the union and the union means the entire country and the states, they are the ones who constitute what is called the executive. We have got union executive and we have got the state executive. Union executive is headed by the president of the country. He is the supreme of the executive. Now, civil servants are who? The executive, we have got adopted a system where every 5 years we have got a political executive who take charge. Now, what we call the cabinet form of government, you know, headed by the Prime Minister. Prime Minister is also a minister, but it's a cabinet where he is the head, and it's the cabinet form of governance. It's not the prime minister who takes it, it's the cabinet who takes the decision, and decision is taken in the name of the president. It's always in the name of the union. Similar is the case in the state. It is not the CM. CM is heading he is also a minister. He is the chief minister. He along with the cabinet, same kind which is adopted in the state. The cabinet takes a decision in the name of the governor. Again, governor is the head of the governance in the state. Under them are these civil servants. Civil servants basically are kind of a permanent executive. They are not changing every 5 years. Unlike the political executive. The political executive can return. Same persons can return, but every 5 years they have to face an election, and then they have to, whoever is the system who is having the largest majority and enjoys the confidence of the house, they call the confidence of the house, and constitute the government. Under them are the civil servants. So civil servants are basically those who are permanent in nature. They are kind of, you can say, occupying, for example, in this particular college, there are certain staff who are there in permanently, who are working here. When I say permanent, nobody is permanent. The whole world is not permanent, but they are there. They don't change every now and then. They are there, and you people come and go after your tenure, after your term is over. So those are called the civil servants of this particular college. So similar is the civil servants of the union executive and the state executive. Apart from that, you must have heard about the military service. Apart from civil service, have you heard about the armed forces service? This military service. We have got the engineering service. We have got the medical service. So civil services, other than that, who are basically taking up the governance. Now, what is the basic two things they do? The policy framing. They assist the political executive in the framing of the policy, and number two is that they are the ones who are the implementing authority. They implement whatever the policy that has been adopted, whichever field it is, whether it is in the matter of running railways, airways, road construction, civil works, running of educational institutions, medical institutions, food distribution, production. Now we have got we have got the famous farmers' education, which is going on in the northern part of the country, near Delhi. So that's again, it has erupted out of some policy decision which has been taken by enacting 3 laws, and now those laws are in conjunction with the political executive has taken in conjunction with the inputs that have been provided by the civil servants. So civil servants are basically those who are there permanent in nature, and they are the ones who help the political executive in running of the governance. And you must have heard about, now today we talk about good governance. Actually, I don't believe in good governance, because I believe governance itself has to be good. I always say I don't believe in good governance. When we talk about governance, and I'm sure you must be knowing when we talk about governance, good governance, which is now being called that it has to be transparent, it has to be inclusive, it has to be, there are many other such things, which constitute what is called good governance. Now, further going, when I mentioned about the about the preamble, the thought of the country, if you look into the part 3 and part 4 of the Constitution, part 4 of the Constitution is the directive principles of the state policy. If you look into, they have provided what is some kind of a policy directive to the government, the policy directive to the legislature as well as the, in fact, why legislature as well as the 3 pillars of the democracy, the legislature, the executive, as well as the judiciary. Now, you know that directive principles, they are not enforceable. But there is a famous Supreme Court ruling where they have said that it may not be enforceable, but they are fundamental in the governance of the country. And this is the famous Madhu Kishwar case where the right to food, in that case the Supreme Court had said these words that directive principles may not be enforceable, but it is fundamental in the governance of the country. Now, if you look into the directive principles, you will find that there are many this thing, but you see what beautiful the directives have been given. I am only reading Article 39, where it says the state shall in particular direct the policy towards the state shall. When we talk about the state, means the union as well as the states. The state shall in particular direct its policy towards securing that the citizens, men and women, equally have the right to an adequate means of livelihood. What else is required? I mean, if you talk about that every person should have adequate means of livelihood. What beautiful words are these? Adequate means of livelihood. And what are the means of livelihood? Roti, kapda, makan. When we talk about, these are the means of livelihood. You just don't talk about food. You talk about more than food. You talk about shelter. You talk about clothing, and many other things. I mean, when we talk about, I subsequently mention about that. Article 21. If you say right to life, Supreme Court has in many judicial decisions, Supreme Court has said that right to life it constitutes much more than a mere living by through roti, kapda and makan. Even other day I was reading something they had taken in the right to life. Of course, right to life, right to privacy is right to life. Right to everything comes under right to life. Dignity is right to life. So when we talk about that, citizens, men and women, equally have the right to an adequate means of livelihood. That's the first thing they have talked, and we have covered almost everything. Now there are many other things that they have spoken about, that the ownership and control of material resources of the community are so distributed as best to subserve the common good. What beautiful things. I wish we are, I think how many years we are through the governance or through the post-independence. We have more than 70 years. 70 years are there, and I wish the government had followed. If they had understood all these things, letter and spirit, these things, India would have been much better. I mean, I can say that. Such beautiful words are mentioned, that ownership and control of all the resources should be for common good. Whether that is followed or not, I only put a question mark. Then that the operation of the economic system does not result in the concentration of wealth and means of production to the common detriment. That is, you should adopt such an economic system that it does not result in concentration of wealth. I don't want to elaborate. You keep hearing about 2 A's, and these days there is a common refrain which is there, you find that there is a concentration of wealth in few hands. In fact, it's so surprising, I think some few percent, some less than 5% people are paying income tax. Majority of the people are. That means you don't come into that category. And it is said that that apart, the income tax apart, the other thing is that even the wealth is concentrated in few hands. Of course, I am not talking about this country. It is throughout the world. It is so. But then that is the case. But you see, it talks about that economic system should not be so that it results in concentration of wealth and means of production to the common detriment. Then that there is equal pay for equal work for both men and women. Today we have inaugurated the anti-sexual harassment cell. Now it talks about the equal pay for equal work for both men and women. And all the women, ladies sitting here, you all know that even now there is a discrimination which is there. And you are reading about it that defense forces slowly are incorporating the women. Even today, when we talk about the civil services and the women, we talk about in police force, what is the intake of women? We will have hardly 6%, 7% intake. We have decided that we should have 25% at least intake. We have, but then it is miles to go, and forget about that. Today we have got at least through the constitutional amendment, we have got 243, Article 243D and Article 243T. There, if you see, they have reserved 33% seats, 1/3 of the seats in panchayats and the municipalities for women. So we have got 1/3 of the seats both in panchayats and the municipalities, women. But you all also know that legislature as well as the Lok Sabha, and Rajya Sabha, Parliament, there also the women have been saying that there should be reservation for women. But whichever party in power, it has still not come. I wish that comes, because when we are talking about empowerment of women, so it says, when it talks about there is equal pay for equal work for both men, I have little digressed and I have said that women empowerment is something which is again talked about, that the health and strength of workers, men and women, and the tender age of children are not abused, and that citizens are not forced by economic necessity to enter avocations unsuited to their age and age or strength. Now again they have taken care of health and strength of workers and also the marginalized, the children particularly. And the children are given, next is the children are given opportunities and facilities to develop in a healthy manner and in conditions of freedom and dignity, and that childhood and youth are protected against exploitation and against moral and material abandonment. Particularly care, because a nation progresses when the children progresses. When unless you take care of the foundation, you cannot have the superstructure. So where the children are not taken care of, that nation can never progress. That nation will stagnate, and this nation will ultimately get ruined. So children have been given, and I'm only talking about what the Constitution has given. Now these are the directive principles which have been given to the state, both union and state, which means all the organs of the state, whether it is legislature, whether it is executive, whether it is judiciary. They have to follow this. They have to see that these are being done or not. Of course, these are not, I told you that these are not enforceable. That's why, they are going in their own pace. But then Supreme Court again has said that they are fundamental in the government. That means we must strive towards that. We must achieve that. And that is why, these Anganwadis, why they have come. Because one of the things that they have said is provision for early, this is Article 45, again the directive principles of the state policy. Provision for early childhood care and education to children below the age of 6 years. Similar things they have mentioned, for other things also. Now, these Anganwadis have come up because of that. Don't think that anybody is doing charity. Nobody is doing charity. No government does charity. It is what is there mentioned in the Constitution of India, in the directive principles. These are to be followed and jolly well followed. And you should strive in that direction. And that is what the governance has been doing for the last 70 years. And we are progressing towards that. And there are many other articles, whether it is keeping the environment clean, whether it is workers' participation in manual, whether it is uniform civil code, whether it is right of worker, right to work, whether it is to education, whether it is in the field of health. So these are all the directives. So now let us come to the other part. I was talking about right to life. Now the part 3, if you see, it's the fundamental rights. What beautiful, these fundamental rights are. These are there, which mentions. I'm only talking about Article 14, 15 and 16. If you see Article 14 and 15 and 16. Now I don't know whether you know the history behind it. History behind it is that when the this Universal Declaration of Human Rights, it came into being immediately after the Second War. Post Second War, because of the sufferings that people, the utter violation of human rights which happened during the Second War, the Committee of Nations, they thought that, and that's when the United Nations came into being, and they thought that they must have coded human rights declared, and that is how the Universal Declaration of Human Rights came into being on 10th December, and 10th December 1948, and at that time the Constituent Assembly was constituted post-independence, and the Constituent Assembly was framing the Constitution. And if you see the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, just Google it, you will get it in the net, and if you see whatever is there in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, they have been adopted in the fundamental rights, and partly in fundamental rights, and again the Universal Declaration of Human Rights mentioned two. One is the aspect of the civil and political rights, which are there mostly in part 3, and also the economic, social and cultural rights. Cultural rights are also there in part 3, and economic and social rights and other things are there also in the form of directive policies. Now, if the government, at that time the directive policy, the Constituent Assembly, they did not make it enforceable because the country was new and the economy was in shambles, and it was not possible to provide clothing, food and everything to everyone. So, but they said you strive towards that. That's how those things went there, But then they thought of that every person should have adequate means of livelihood. But part 3, it mentioned about the civil and political rights. Now, Article 14, 15 and 16, if you see, only talks about equality. It talks about equality, and that is from the preamble. I said, equality of status and opportunity. Equality of status and opportunity comes in Article 14, 15 and 16. Again, beautiful, Article 15, if you see Article 15, it mentions that though it talks about equality, that is no discrimination with respect to, whatever caste, creed, etc. Also gender, that is no discrimination on the basis of male or female. But it also talks about that there may not be discrimination, but there can be some, laws, there can be certain action, which can be called as affirmative action taken for the upliftment of the women and children. So that is there in this thing. So that is again, thought of, because the unfortunately the women and children were relegated behind. So they thought of that they need to be, particularly women, they have to be taken care of. Similarly, Article 16, if you see that Article 16 also, though it said that equality of opportunity in the matters of public employment, but then it also said that there can be reservations. You can, there have to be certain steps taken for upliftment of those who have been relegated behind, whether it is, now that's how these reservations, whether it is scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, otherwise backward caste, economically weaker section, now all these things, new things are coming up. But these are through the Constitution, equality of opportunity with regard to those who have been relegated behind, to lift them up. We need some special. Then you have got, if you see Article 19, it talks about all the right to freedom. I am not going into that, into right to freedom, but there are various rights which have been talked about. Article 21, when we are talking about right to life, there are many Supreme Court rulings, but just I'll read out one particular ruling where the Supreme Court has said about on the right to life. This is the Olga Tellis, famous Olga Tellis versus Bombay Municipal Corporation case. Now here it is a 1985 case wherein state went on to forcibly evict squatters under Bombay Municipal Corporation Act. The Supreme Court went on to say that actually the squatters who were sitting on the public property, when they were being evicted, they said, Supreme Court said, no doubt, you can evict them, but you need to provide them alternate space, because everybody has a right to life. So, but then again further they, qualified on that. They said the Supreme Court went on to say that the sweep of the right to life conferred by Article 21 is wide and far-reaching. Life means something more than mere animal existence. Mere animal existence, if you give food, fine, but that is not just, when you talk about human, it is more than just giving food, Your basic, you must have known about Maslow's theory, all the things which motivates. a person, the basic thing is the physical thing, that is your food is one of the prime thing in that. But it does mean that it's not, life means something more than mere animal existence. It does not mean merely that life cannot be extinguished or taken away, as for example by the imposition and execution of death sentence, except according to the procedure established by law. The Article 21, if you read, it says nobody can take your life without due procedure of law. That's it. It does not mean just that. Supreme Court says that that is but one aspect of the right to life. An equally important facet of that right is the right to livelihood, because no person can live without the means of living, that is means of livelihood. If the right to livelihood is not treated as part of the constitutional right to life, the easiest way of depriving a person of his right to life would be to deprive him of his means of livelihood to the point of abrogation. Such deprivation would not only denude the life of its effective content and meaningfulness, but it would make life impossible to live. You understand that if dignity is ruined, where the mind is held without fear, I tell you, I incarcerate you. Today I say you cannot go out of this. I'll provide you food, clothing, shelter, everything. The shelter is so good, air conditioned. But I say you will remain here only henceforth. You see how you start. Suddenly you will go berserk. How can you? So that is what, right is not just mere animal existence, it's much more than that when we talk about it. So this is all part of where the ethos of this country. Now, when we talk about the civil servants are the ones who should know this. This is what is taught in the, though you are being taught here also, but when we go to the precinct of the Lal Bahadur Shastri National Academy of Administration, when those who qualify into the civil services, you go there. Once again, they tell you all this. And there's a beautiful, lines which are written there, which is basically in Bengali, but you can understand it. So they say, become correlative being, means they say that in your work you become brave. Now, this is there. Even when you pass out from the National Police Academy in Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, that academy, Police Academy in Hyderabad, again the same thing, the constitution, we always say our religion is constitution. The civil servant, their religion is constitution. There is nothing else other than constitution. And you should remind, those who are in the political arena, you should constantly remind them constitution. This is the beautiful thing which happened in America. A sitting president can be, the Twitter has cancelled his account and sitting there. And this is where the institution stood up. Maybe the president may have thought that his judges whom he have appointed, no, institution is more important. It's not that, this is the beautiful thing. The civil servants are the one who run the institutions. As I said that you are permanent. And for you it is not this A, B or C party, let me tell you. The day when it comes in your mind that I am a liberal, I am a rightist, I am a reactionary, I am a Hindu, I am a Muslim, forget this day. Forget India. Let India burn. But as civil servants, if you want to become civil servants, remember ever and ever that it is the constitution of this country which is your religion, which is your if you have this kind of a ethos built up in you while you pass out from here and when you get into the civil services, I am sure this country is in safe hands. Why I am talking this is, unfortunately, I am very bold in saying, I have been always saying, though people have not told here, let me tell you, I would have been the director of the CBI, but for some reasons I was not. Please Google in my name and see what all has happened. And I was brought as the Director General of Police of the state. Even there also they were apprehensive, because I am a very straight person in talking, and I keep saying, I don't fear anyone. And today also I am saying that you believe, in the constitution of the country, and if you follow this, no one And I'm saying that because I'm seeing increasingly for last 70 years what I'm seeing is there is a constant deterioration in the values and morals, the ethos of the civil servants. Very unfortunate. Many of them are, I mean today if you talk about the police, many of these police people, they are, today no superintendent of police can post his own sub-inspectors and sub-inspectors in the police stations. No director general of police can post his the inspectors and sub-inspectors in this thing. Though the Supreme Court has given that this thing through this, the Prakash Singh verdict and earlier that police commission, National Police Commission report, even Supreme Court monitoring also is not helping. That is the state of affairs. And I tell you, I am giving some figures, I mean, you must know what is happening, And people, they come to me today, you see, 90, this appeared in the Times of India some 2-3 years back, I think 2 years back. 90% of women fear sexual abuse in public spaces, says survey. This is one of the NGOs who had conducted survey. You tell me which lady today can wear a Mangal Sutra and go out? I mean, when I talk about Mangal Sutra, having gold chain. 100% it is going to be snatched. This is where we have come to in 70 years. Today people have time to play golf, the civil servants. Today the civil servants have time to only speak about their salary, their pay, their facility. They don't have, they can't protect the women, on the street. So this is where we have come to. And I'll tell you, I'll give you the figures also. This is just one, you must see what is happening. And I'm happy that I am talking to people who are aspirants for the civil services. If you keep that in mind, that we need to, if the curve is like this, the curve is going like this, you have to lift it up. It is you who can lift it up. Provided you follow this. This is crime against women, because it is anti-sexual harassment cell inauguration which has happened today. I just brought this figure, crime against women. Of all the cases which are reported, there are about 12 lakh, more than 12 lakh cases which get reported in a year of various types of crimes against women. If you have come across Indian Penal Code and other, provisions of the for the protection of the women. Provisions of the law for the protection of women, all those, if somebody violates those laws, then cases are taken up. There are more than 12 lakh cases which have been taken up. What is the conviction rate? This is, I'm talking about 2017 figure, because unfortunately again, the National Crime Record Bureau, they bring out the figures with lot of delay. Forget that, I am not going into that, why the delay. But then, now it is 2018 which has come. I have got hold of 2017, the data which mentions the conviction rate of 24.4%. That means, and let me mention there, of course I don't have the rape figures, but then let me talk about the state. Out of 100, only 25 will get convicted. And Karnataka, because we are sitting in Karnataka, 5.4% conviction rate. Out of 100, only 5 or 6% will get convicted. And let me also give you, I have got the Karnataka's figure, 2017 if you see, and I'm only mentioning about rape. Now, 555 rapes took place, reported, which were registered by the Karnataka police in 2017. And how many have been convicted till 31st October? I got this figure on 31st October. As on 31st October 2019. As on 31st October 2019, how many got convicted? 7 out of 555. So why shouldn't chain snatching take place? Why shouldn't rape take place? When there is no fear of law, when the mind is held without fear, when there is no fear of law. Today we have not come to where the mind is not held without fear. We have come to where there is no fear of law. For whatever reason. So this is where you have to step in. I mean, otherwise also I am talking about as youngsters, you should, enough is enough, this country has seen. We have seen enough of this political jugglery. But as citizens of this country, you have to make everybody answerable, every institution answerable. Your Bible is Constitution of the country. Right to Information Act has been enacted after a long time. You can get every information from Right to Information Act. Article 32 of the Constitution provides you with the power to go to Supreme Court for enforcement of your fundamental rights. You know all those writs you can find. So when the Constitution is giving you so much power, where has the inner strength of the citizens gone? As youngsters, you should build up that. And when a strong civil servant, when a strong youngster gets into a civil services, this country is safe. And I am talking about it, you must think from the other side. It is not the privileges of the civil servant. As a civil servant, I can get things done. What about common people? What about common people? I don't know whether you have heard about, I was in the Lokayukta at that time. Justice Santosh Hegde, perhaps some of you are very young, I may not know, 2007 to 2011, when I moved on as ADG Law and Order, then the DG, I was, Justice Santosh Hegde brought me in to Lokayukta, and you must be knowing, some of you, that the number of raids we had done at that time, because I was heading that anti-corruption, the Lokayukta police wing. And Justice Santosh Hegde had given me the full freedom at that time. And even today people do talk about that golden era when the public servants were scared, feared about asking for bribe, or not that I could eliminate it, but then a fear was instilled. Today common people, and I have been seeing this when I was somebody read out my biodata mentioning I was in the anti-corruption cell of the branch of Delhi. That's you can say the Delhi CBI's Thana, where I have been there for 4 years, and I wrote some articles at that time, and I always said that people, they are scared because unfortunately criminal justice system, if you see, if you once give a complaint, the harassment that you have to undergo. Today the women, many of them, I said report, that's why I said reported rape case, that many of the people who suffer, the women, they don't report because the criminal justice system harasses them even more after that. And same is the case, people are ready to pay if it is affordable and get their work done, then come and report. Because our institutions are still not strong. We need to build up institutions. What happened when Trump has been, shown his the path he should follow. That is the kind of institution we would like to have in this country, and as the civil servants, which you are aspiring to become. You are the one. And when I said that permanent functionaries, when I said in the beginning you are the permanent, you will be the permanent functionary in the civil services, and you are the one who should have that ethos built in you, that we will see that no common person suffers, that not on the basis of recommendations that I would hear, today people will call up, so and so would like to meet you, please hear him. Why? No, every person, the door is open, every person, irrespective of whether he is the President of India's person or whether it is a common person on the street, who comes first should get the opportunity. No, I will not listen to because he is related to the President of India or the Prime Minister. I will listen to first who is the person who came first. So this is the kind of strength that you should build. That I would, as a civil servant, be impartial, that I will be a person of integrity, that I would work, we who belong to a place where in the 12th century, our Basaveshwara, Lord Basaveshwara, he gave that famous saying, work is worship. Kaya ka kailasa. So he said that work is worship. You belong to, let Karnataka lead, let Karnataka show that. Work is worship. We say that we are 24 hours in the job, 24 into 7 into 365 days. Forget about that. I was telling that 8 hours also when you work, you talk about your own benefits. So when you are 24 hours into job, means your mind is always there that what am I doing for the betterment of the common people, for the poor, for this. This is where your mind should be always. Now today I read out these conviction rates as just to give you an example, but these are umpteen and galore. When Rajiv Gandhi late, he said that 10 paisa of a rupee reaches, when he said the famous saying, But who stopped? You have created a system like that. So that's I'm talking that the system has been created so that today, whichever field, the economic field, whether it is criminal justice system, whether it is any judiciary overloaded with cases, people are, if you have heard about that famous movie where our Sunny Deol, he says, Tariq pe Tariq, have you heard about that? Tariq pe Tariq pe Tariq pe Tariq, this is what it is. You go to the court and you will be disgusted. That's where I said that, the harassment that you face when you give a case, why people don't come forward to give a complaint against corruption is because of that. Anyway, now this is the scenario, and there are good things happening. There are a lot of people who have shown the path. I am talking about, you will keep reading, read about some of the civil servants who have, despite this condition, they have fought, they have suffered. There are people in the state, you must be reading on and off, you will read also, who have been shuttled, maybe in 30 years they have been shuttled 40 times. In 1 year they will be not more than a year or few months they have stayed. Because if they go by this thing, but that doesn't, that politicians once said, the civil servants, they are scared. Why? Because of the transfer. Because they also have a family. Now, once you are not bothered about transfers, and all that, they may make your life, hell. There was a person, who arrested Mrs. Gandhi, Indira Gandhi, during the post-emergency, the cases when they were happening. He had never seen the light of the day after that for a long time. I'm not taking his name, but then the sense that he was relegated to such a useless post. There are cases also like that, but then there are people who have suffered and who have stood their ground. So believe in that. If you believe in that, I'm sure you will. The universal institution is doing its job, and I wish you all the good luck that you get into civil service with that. Our country has been, of course, great. There is no doubt about that. That at one point of time we have been having 25% of the world trade. Can you believe it? And we have been one of the pioneers in the matter of trade. Today, how much? I think few percentage we have got. 2-3% or less than 5% of this thing. And but that was the thing. We had, if you have read about or heard about that famous Mohammad Rafi song, Jahan Dal Dal Par Sone Ki Chidiya. Have you heard about? Please hear that again and again, because that is what will incite you to come up to that. This is what the country was. Jahan Dal Dal Pe Sone Ki Chidiya Karti Thi Basera. वो भारत देश है मेरा. Why we constantly keep telling it is a poor country, poor country, poor country? We have been made poor by the colonial masters. And post independence also, I always say the brown sahibs have replaced the white sahibs. The cultural change hasn't happened. So it is on you. The yoke is on your shoulder now that you carry forward that. That's because in the committee of the nation, when we talk about this international order also, if you want to get the foreign investment, we are talking today, Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi, he talks about Make in India. Now, Make in India, if you have to bring investment. People should be ready to come to India. When people will come to India? When there is an ease of doing business, that's what he is striving for. But what I am saying is that all these things have to happen, and this will happen when the civil servants work. The whole burden, the task is on you as civil servants. when you do. So with these words, of course, you asked about the gender sensitivity. I don't want to deal much in that. So far as civil servants are concerned, it is at present the percentage of intake of women is less, but then we are striving towards that. But then we have now ushered in what is called the sexual harassment of women at workplace, Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act 2013. And under that, of course, the things have been taken care of. But once again, all this is on the, because even this also, wherever, whichever place you go as civil servants, you will be manning, when it comes to even, dealing with the gender, and you have to be gender neutral, rather, I would say, and you have to have gender sensitivity also. So as civil servants, you would be, spearheading that, and I'm sure with your kind of enthusiasm that you have shown. I have heard one or two persons today, they spoke and seem to be quite enthusiastic, So build up that enthusiasm in the youngsters and work hard. There is nothing called, I always say, other than discipline and hard work. And civil services getting into is only based on hard work. Choose your subject where you feel comfortable, which you think that, it seeps in you. You are comfortable with the subject. Today now there is only one means. It has become very easy, taking civil services. Only thing is a year of dedication. Forget about everything. If you dedicate yourself, you will get through. And I look forward to universal group of institutions churning out the civil servants year after year, and with I always my blessings are with you, and not only such as civil servants, but as I was mentioning in my talk, turn out to be wonderful civil servants. The examples there. These words, I'm very thankful that I have been called today by the institution. As I was telling, when I entered the precinct, I said such a wonderful. The telephone tapping?
Yes, sir. Please.
Okay, I'm open to questions, of course, now, otherwise it's past 1. Chandrasekhar case, and then there was a Chandraswamy case, those cases, as somebody was mentioning, I was in the special investigation group when the VP government had come into being at that time. And the Chandrasekhar case, if you remember that Chandrasekhar had given a complaint, had spoken in the Lok Sabha mentioning that his telephone is being tapped. So that matter, there was a lot of conundrum in Bohalla in the Lok Sabha, and then the matter was referred by VP Singh government to the CBI, and CBI came to the special investigation group. The special investigation group was constituted for taking up all such cases. And this case, of course, I was the SP in charge of the case, and we had started looking into what kind of, how the tapping was done. But then we also digressed further, though, you didn't find a particular any evidence of whether the tapping had happened in Mr. Chandrasekhar's house or not, but then we even expanded our investigation, and we had gone into what is called illegal tapping of telephone. If you can find out from the, maybe net will have, those reports which came out at that time in media. And the joint director who was heading this cell was, I was talking about the person who was behind the Mrs. Gandhi's arrest, and he was my joint director. I was SP with him, and there we found a lot of illegal tappings which had happened, and we had busted the illegal tapping which had happened. I don't want to digress more than that, but which has happened. Then the Chandraswamy case, again the same thing. And the Chandraswamy case, when it happened, Mr. Chandraswamy was, he was so politically connected, he would not accept even a summon from the CBI. but that you can say that I would say that the task fell on me. Why? Because we have been finding that he is not accepting the summons when we send an inspector or DSP. Then I personally, as SP, I had gone and we had. But then when I had gone to his ashram, so-called ashram, he was staying in a house in Delhi, and when I had gone to his house to serve this thing, our joint director immediately faced transfer. He was shunted out of the CBI. So I'm talking about that, when you deal with powerful people, the civil servants may face problem, but then ultimately what happens is that at least the values, even I was threatened, when I had summoned the Mr. Chadaswamy, I was threatened by saying, and it is, I'm talking within inverted apostrophes, that ये आपको बहुत भारी पड़ेगी. And one of his mama had said so, and this is mentioned by Mr. So and so, Mr. N.K. Singh, let me name that person, in his one book he has written, and where he has quoted this, that ASP had come and he had said that ये आपको भारी पड़ेगी, and there were threatening letters and all which came that your family will be destroyed, this, that, and all. But then the point simple is that nobody can do anything to one who is strong. Nobody can. How many cases I have faced? Please Google in my name and you will find that I have faced defamation case, I have faced case under SCSTPA Act, I thought of doing a law course, everybody does law course, but then they faced I had put a case against me saying how can he do law when he is 24 hours on job. So as if I were, every case went up to Supreme Court, let me tell you that. And ultimately I got relief from the Supreme Court because they were so pursuant that they should show me the path, the road that you dare do that again. But then I was lucky enough that Supreme Court, I didn't have to fight, the Supreme Court on its own had quashed most of it. You will face problem, if you are old. But then ultimately institution, individuals are not important, remember this. Individuals are not important, institution is important. Build institution, not individual. Today, we have got civil servants, who just brag in their name that so and so, so and so, so and so. No, people should talk about CBI, ED, Supreme Court, High Court, or X or Y or Z. Build institution, not individuals. Hear about today, now these days we have started hearing about some names. In our times, never names used to come. We have done wonderful work, but it is always CBI has done this, CBI has done this, because it's CBI, and the CBI is to protect for your bold action. So institution and institution will protect you. I'm so happy, America has shown, today America has shown how institutions can deal. It is because of the institution today America is surviving, because the democracy in America is surviving. So, similar ethos we should have in this country, and unfortunately our constitution is great. I don't think anywhere in the world we can have such a beautiful, document which our forefathers have given us, and if you abide by this, no further dharma would be required. This is the biggest dharma that we have. Thank you very much.